Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 293rd Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away you'll see this battle was not fought on the flat, featureless maps that we usually fight on. This battle was fought on the Germanic Forrest map. Now I quite like this map because you've got the best of both worlds. You've got woods if you want to bring barbarian troops to fight in the woods for the woods bonus, or you've got big wide open plains if you want to fight in the out in the open, as I say, on the big open plains. So it's got the best of both worlds really. Okay, our first teammate is Brotherhood member Gladius, who has bought his faction of choice, the Greek Cities faction. Over the last few months, I've noticed Gladius has got extremely good with those pikes there. Our second teammate is RTW player Lee, who has bought the Rome SPQR faction. Our third teammate is Brotherhood member Legion 22, who has bought the Rome Bruto faction. Now I know a lot of newer players like to have a look at our army builds here, so just have a quick look here. If you can see, I believe Legion has only bought 12 infantry units, which maybe is a little bit low for the modern day battlefield. And he's got his archers, but let's have a look at the upgrades of his army. Now can you see here he's got 7 upgrades, so that's gold shield, gold attack, and an experience stripe. And that makes a big difference. That experience stripe makes a big difference on the battlefield, especially if it gets down to the last few units. That experience stripe keeps those soldiers fighting longer, a lot longer than if they haven't got that experience stripe. And you see most of his units have got 7 upgrades, so most of his infantry there have got the experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack, which makes those infantry quite tough, even though there's only 12 of them. I see he's got 3 archers and 5 cavalry. So I think that's a pretty good balanced army there. As I say, only 12 infantry, might be a bit low for the modern day battlefield, but with those upgrades, I think it'd be interesting to see how well that army does. And our fourth teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who has bought the Carthage faction. So there's our team there, a lot of experience. This has got the ingredients to be a classic battle, and I hope you enjoy it. At this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at my old Carthage army. Now in the past, you've seen me bring my anti-Germania Carthage army, where I've split my army into 2 and made 2 wide battle lines to kind of neutralise the Germania attack. But this is just a basic old Carthage army of mine. I think I've got about 13 pikes. I think it's 3 Balearic slingers. There's one of the slingers there. If you notice, with it's a sling and a slingshot actually in the sling there. 3 Balearic slingers, and I got 4 Sacred Band cavalry there. If you look at them, the upgrades on this cavalry, can you see I've got 8 upgrades? So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack on these cavalry. They're good cavalry anyway, but with those upgrades, that makes them even better. So as I say, that's a very old standard Carthage army of mine. Okay, let's just move over here now and have a look at RTW player Lee's army. Now if you notice here, he's got 17 infantry, and he's in the checkered board formation, which is an original formation used by the Roman army. If you notice here, he's got an eagle unit. There, can you see the eagle unit? The 120 men in there, 122 men in there, plus he's got his general, infantry general too. So there's a lot of morale within that infantry, which is quite good, and he's got 3 cavalry. So as I say, that's an original Roman checkered board formation. As I say, with his eagle unit and general unit in there, that's a lot of morale, which is going to keep those troops fighting even longer. And if we go over and have a look at Gladius's formation here, as I say, new players watching this is all just give you some ideas what you could do. Can you see how Gladius has split his army into 2 there? And he's got his 5 Cretan archers at the rear. As I say, this should be a great battle for you to watch. Lots of experience. You wait till you see the other team. And here is the other team. We have IOW Ambyrix, who has bought the Rome Julii faction. Now if you notice here, can you see he's got about 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 12 infantry units. But if we have a look at the upgrades on his infantry, can you see he's also got an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. See those 7 upgrades? So that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. I notice that a lot of the RTW generals are putting experience stripes on their infantry now. And as I say, I've been doing that for years and years, and it really does make a difference in the battle. It keeps them fighting longer. Their second teammate is IOW Elias, who is actually, I believe, IOW Sparky, and he has bought the Macedon faction. If you look a little bit closer at the Macedon faction, you can see that his Pilot Shield units at the front, his open order Pilot Shield units, have got 6 upgrades on, so that's Gold Shield, Gold Attack. You don't really want to put a lot more on because, as I say, they're just Pilot Shield units. And his main battle line has got 7 upgrades, so that's an Experience Stripe, Gold Shield, Gold Attack. There, so that's quite nice. I mean, just look at the length of those pikes again. Remember, Roman soldiers have got to fight all the way down those pikes to kill the man on the other end. That's why we tend not to like to fight pikes head on, because that's a lot for Roman troops to do. And I see he's got 6 companion cavalry. I see he's just got Gold Shield, Gold Attack on them. Remember, sometimes these are called the Winged Horsemen because of the kind of wings on their helmets. So that's a good Macedon army there. Their third teammate is RTW player El Cid, and he has bought the Pontus faction. You say he's got 3 archers. Unfortunately for Pontus, their archers are very short range. I see he's got 6 upgrades on them. I think the archers look like they're wearing their pajamas. I think we've talked about this before there with those kind of uniforms they've got there. He's got 3 units of short range archers, and then he's got his Pontus pikeman there with 8 upgrades. So he's got 2 experience stripes, Gold Shield, Gold Attack. And once again, you can see the length of those pikes. And as I said before, like, Roman soldiers have got to fight all the way down those pikes to kill the man on the other end. So that's why Roman generals don't really like taking pike units on head on. And he'll have his chariots, his heavy chariots, and probably his archer chariots there. Chariot archers actually hiding in the woods. And their fourth teammate is Wolves Ice Orb. A lot of you know why Wolves Ice Orb. I think he's had a few years break from RTW, but has recently come back, and I noticed he's been bringing a lot of experimental armies, so it'll be interesting to see what his army looks like a little bit later in the battle. At this very, very early stage of the battle, while I'm running my Carthage army over to my allies, can you see that the Pontus general is taking his fast-moving chariot archers over here to try and pick my infantry off as they're running? But if you notice now, I'm running my slingers towards those chariots. There you go, let's just pause again for a second. They were just going to start getting to Canterbury Circle, I think, there. There's a close-up of the chariot. See, these guys have got 2 bowmen, so they certainly shoot out a lot of arrows. Each one of those chariots in those units there have got 2 archers in. And he's got his heavier chariots over here. As I say, they were hiding in the woods when we were looking at the armies a few minutes ago. Remember the scythed wheels and the spikes on the horses. Very good attack specifications on these chariots. But they do run amok, and we've seen what our muck chariots can do in other battle videos. So as I say here, to counter those chariot archers, I'm going to run my slingers over, and it wouldn't surprise me if that Pontus general started to back those chariots off there. There you go, can you see? He's starting to back those chariot archers off once he saw the slingers coming towards him. Slingers are a very good counter for chariot archers and chariots in general. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here on this left flank. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I just thought I'd give you a heads up on our battle plan here. Now, Gladius said that he wanted to take on the enemy Macedon faction there with his Greek cities faction. I was going to take on Pontus with my Carthage faction. And our 2 Roman allies were going to take on the enemy Roman troops there. Now that's the actual basic plan. Of course, as the battle develops, things can change, but that is our basic plan there. If you notice, we're in quite a tight defensive formation there. In fact, we look a little bit passive, I think, which can hand the advantage to the enemy team if they want to start to attack. Remember what we've talked about in other battle videos. If you're defensive and passive, you can only react to your enemy's movements there. Let's say we got our archers and slingers there against those chariots. Okay, at this early stage of the battle, you can see that the Pontus general has brought his chariots over here, maybe to try and take out my slingers. But with slingers, and I think Gladius is shooting fire arrows with his Cretan archers into these chariots. You can see, my guess is that those chariots will be backed off from this confrontation. As you can see, there's a lot of we've killed a lot of the chariots there with our slingers and fire arrows there. You see there's a couple of wheels from the chariots there laid in the grass. So in general, the chariots do tend to shy away from slingers, and plus we've got all of those archers there as well. They say there's a little bit of an archer battle at the front of our armies here. Ice Orbs brought his archers over there, and it's caused a lot of casualties within Legion's archers there. See that one unit there has been reduced down to about 7 or 8 men by the by Ice Orb's archers there. In the old days of RTW, we always used to have an archer battle at the beginning of the battle before the main battle started. I don't know why we did, but we always did. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle, you can see the chariots at the back there. And this is an interesting tactic here. Now, it's a gamble to keep your chariots that far back from the main battle, because obviously if you need to bring the chariots in quickly, they're a long way away. Okay, if they attack us now and they need to bring chariots in a long way. But what the Pontus general is hoping is that as the battle develops and we're concentrating on the front end of the battle here, concentrating on being attacked, we might forget about those chariots that are in behind us, and just at the right time it'll smash those chariots in behind our engaged troops there and probably cause a mass rout. So it's an interesting tactic there by the Pontus general. We'll have to see if it works as the battle unfolds. Okay, at this stage of the battle, if you remember, Ice Orb's army was hidden in the woods when we were looking at armies earlier, but this is an experimental army that he's brought to the modern day battlefield after a few years of not playing. So he likes to experiment here. If you notice, his pilot shield units is unusually light auxiliary troops. Now these guys are susceptible to damage from archers, but if they'll stand in front of that main battle line, then they will soak up pilers as good as any other unit there. But they are taking casualties already from archers. You can see there's dead there already. So that's an interesting pilot shield, couple of pilot shield units there. If you notice here, can you see he's got, I think it's 11 infantry units there, heavy infantry units. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, yep. And if you look at the upgrades, let's have a closer look at the upgrades on Ice Orb's experimental army here. Now remember that urban cohorts are so elite that they fight really well with just gold shield, gold attack on them. As you've seen in most battles, people just bring gold shield, gold attack on their urban cohorts. But if we take a closer look at Ice Orb's army here, can you see that he's got 7 upgrades on his infantry on this particular unit? So that's an experience stroke gold shield, gold attack. But if we start looking closer, can we see here he's got 8 upgrades? So that's 2 experience stroke gold shield, gold attack. Now that makes these units, tough units, incredibly difficult to kill and incredibly tough overall on the whole battlefield. And I can see 3 units there with 8 upgrades on. Those 3 there, can you see? So that's 2 experience stroke gold shield, gold attack. And his general, can you see he's got 9 upgrades? So that's 3 experience stroke gold shield, gold attack. That unit is fully upgraded. And boy, is that a tough unit. That is going to be a heck of a tough unit to kill. And those other 2 units there are both 8 upgrades as well. Now, if the battle goes down to the wire and units from each team are fighting, battle damage units from each team are fighting right at the last moments of the battle, then such well upgraded troops as what Ice Orb's got there could make the difference. We could be looking at battle winning troops here if it goes right down to the wire. I see he's got his archer units there as well. Looks like he's got about 4 archer units, and I think he's got 3 cavalry. So that army, it's really good to me, and it should be really good to see how well it does during the course of the battle. As I say, they could be battle winning troops. Okay, at this stage of the battle, you can see that Lee is moving his 17 infantry units forward towards the enemy in a very aggressive manner here, backed up by Brotherhood member Gladius, who is moving forward with his 2 Greek armies, his main Greek army and his smaller Greek army of just 3 units, backing Lee up there. If you notice, I'm running my Carthage army forward here because I can see Lee is moving towards Pontus and Macedon, and that's where I really want to get my pikes involved, fighting those two factions there. Let's say I think Lee with 17 urban cohort units. Remember, he's got that Eagle unit and the infantry general there giving morale. I think that's a really good army to move forward there. Just imagine the number of pilers in amongst those 17 infantry units. The damage those amount of pilers could do to the enemy. Okay, he's moving forward there, as I say, backed up by Gladius as Greek cities. Let's just pause the game for a second there. So as you can see, he's moved all his 17 infantry units forward towards the Pontus units there. Now remember that the amount of, as I said earlier, the pilers that he could throw in there would be phenomenal really. But moving that far forward, can you see that his left flank is a little bit open here to the Julii infantry, Macedon cavalry, and those archers shooting into his flank. Plus there's some Macedon units there as well that could attack that left flank. I can see Gladius is moving his small Carthage army there, maybe over there to try and cover that flank. But Lee's left flank there is a little bit exposed to attack. Fair play to him being aggressive and moving forward, but he must watch that. And as I say, Gladius is backing him up with his infantry, and I'll be moving my infantry forward soon. Anyways, nice aggressive move there by Lee, but as I say, he needs to watch that left flank of his. There, can you see the amount of pilers that he's now throwing into the Pontus front line? Remember that Pontus front line, I don't think had a pilot shield unit there, so those units are in dense formation and they will suffer a lot of casualties there from those pilot hits. And over here on the left, I'd just like to draw your attention to a nice bit of harassing, disrupting, aggressive attack here, and a combination move by Legion's cavalry and Gladius' small pike little army there. Can you see there's a gap between the enemy Julii and the enemy Macedon units there, and they've exploited that by charging through. Now if that Macedon cavalry attacks the green cavalry there, of course Gladius has got his pikes there to counter that cavalry. Well, he then, our Legion 22's green cavalry then can hit wherever he wants, where those pikes are shielding him from that Macedon cavalry. Wouldn't surprise me if Legion went for that pilot shield unit, that auxiliary unit there in front of the Julii infantry. But looking over at the battlefield as a whole here, you can see that Lee here is moving his infantry. He's piling, throwing more pilers into the enemy units there, but he's moving his infantry round the kind of flank there of the end of that Pontus formation. But there's loads of pilers going into that into those Pontus units there, really weakening them. And so you got Gladius's Greek cities there, and I've got my Carthage army close up behind. But you can still see the Pontus chariots at the back there. Still hoping we're going to forget them probably for when they want to charge in. Maybe they could be a pivotal part of the battlefield as the battle develops. Okay, as we thought here, can you see Legion now is turning his cavalry into taking out that auxiliary pilot shield unit there. And bang, as that cavalry hits, takes out that unit. Can you see the Macedon cavalry thinking of counter-attacking there, but Gladius's pikes are there. And Legion and Gladius are pulling back now after taking out a couple of enemy archer units and disrupting the enemy battle line. Harassing and haranguing and disrupting the enemy battle line there. Nice little lightning surgical strike there by a combination of Gladius and Legion 22. Okay, can you see Lee is running his infantry headlong into the Pontus pikemen there. And that's a very aggressive thing to do. Very, very aggressive thing to do for a Roman general. I know he's got 17 infantry units, but that is a very aggressive thing to do there, to run his forward units into the waiting pikes of Pontus. Now, if you notice, let's just pause the game for a second. Right, if you notice here, Gladius has now decided to charge his main army into the enemy Julii infantry there. So he's just charged headlong with his pikes, with his spears up. He would have charged straight in to those Julii army, and then as soon as he made contact, he'll put those spears down. Nice little attack there by Gladius. As I say, Roman generals don't like fighting pikes, and especially don't like fighting Spartans head on. But if you notice that Macedon and Pontus, their units are starting to gang up on Lee, so I'm now moving my Carthage army forward to try and counter that. As I say, Legion here, wouldn't surprise me if he moved over there to cover Lee's left flank a little bit there. As I say, Lee's left is a little bit exposed. And as I say, Gladius is attacking this Julii army really aggressively there with his Greek cities units. Let's say, it looks like these Macedon are coming over to support the their Julii ally there. Very aggressive attacking move there. Let's say new players to RTW, you can see how aggressive Greek cities can be. Their attack specifications are really good if you use them correctly. Right, as you can see here, I've moved my Carthage army forward to support Lee, and I'm now facing Pontus and Macedon units there. Now remember that Carthage have only got 81 man units against 121 man units of Pontus and Macedon, but they do punch above their weight, those Carthage Sacred Band, especially with good upgrades. If you notice here, Legion 22 discharges Green Brutii Cavalry into that attacking Julii infantry. Right, I'm just going to draw your attention here, new players watching Rome Total War. Now remember that the Greek cities here are a little bit bunched. Gladius is a little bit bunched there, trying to punch a hole through that Julii infantry. Notice there's Macedon units been brought in behind to support the Julii infantry, but more importantly, can you see how the Julii generals taking units round the flank of those bunched Greek city units there to charge into the weakest spot of those Greek cities, the rear. So they're being held at the front. It's like a hammer and anvil attack. The Greek cities are being held at the front while he gets infantry round the back to charge into the rear in like a hammer and anvil attack. So that's a nice strategic move there by the Julii general, backed up by the Macedon pikemen. As I say here with my Carthage Sacred Band, I'm starting to attack, as you can see here, the Pontus pikemen. But as I say, remember those Pontus pikes are extremely long pikes. Here can you see here's some Macedon pikes the same length as the Pontus pikes there, against the short spears of my Sacred Band. But as I said earlier, the Sacred Band troops with good upgrades on them do punch above their weight, so it'll be interesting to see how well they do. As we thought, Gladius has moved over to the left of Lee there to try and counter any attack by the Julii infantry there. I've got my slingers there ready to, any of the chariots come close, I've got slingers there ready to try and counter that. Plus I've got my cavalry facing that direction as well, to try and take on any chariots that might try and come in behind us. As I say, Legion's just charged into that attacking Julii infantry there. And if you notice that Legion's charging in again with his cavalry against that attacking Julii infantry, and bang as that cavalry hits. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Julii general counterattacked with his cavalry. As you can see here, the Julii general is now attacking with his cavalry that he had hidden in the woods, and bang as that Julii cavalry goes in. I've now turned my Carthage cavalry to try and counter that Julii cavalry, and Legion's turned his cavalry back as well. So I've got my Carthage Sacred Band and Legion's cavalry. They're trying to counter that Julii cavalry. Now what happens here could prove pivotal, because if the enemy cavalry wins, they could charge into the back of our Greek cities. Right, let's just pause again for a second. As I say, here this particular cavalry battle could prove pivotal, because if the Julii cavalry win, they could smash into the back of our Greek cities allies there, whose troops are all engaged, and that means we would probably lose our right flank plus all that cavalry. Over here at the rear, can you see you've got Macedon cavalry, Julii cavalry, and the chariots closing in. Now if those guys smash into the flank and rear of our engaged troops, then that could be game over. If you notice here, Lee, good team player, sending over units to help our Greek cities ally there that seems to be getting surrounded by enemy troops. So that's a nice bit of support there by Lee. And of course, with 17 infantry units, he can use his infantry in a wide part of the battlefield and still hold his front. As you can see here, Lee's still holding against the Pontus and Macedon units coming in from his flank. And remember that Julii army is basically intact there with those fantastic upgrades on those units, those rear units there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here on this right flank. As I say, if we lose a cavalry battle here, then those units, enemy units, will charge into the rear of those Greek city, engaged Greek city troops and could rout them. So as I say, I've got my Carthage Sacred Band, and you can see Legion here has rallied a couple of his routed cavalry units here to charge back in. But will it be enough to take out those Julii cavalry? Let's say Gladius is doing extremely well here with his Greek cities. See, remember how aggressive he attacked with them. The casualties he's causing the enemy troops there is really good. Can you see the Macedon companion cavalry are charging into the rear of us now? And here comes that companion cavalry. We've got that Julii cavalry out there as well, charging in, and oh my gosh, here comes those chariots. Now remember, those chariots bring a massive fear factor that lowers the morale of enemy troops, therefore destabilizing them and making them more susceptible to routing. And here comes those chariots. Bang, as those chariots go in, routing units as soon as they hit. Oh my gosh, Legion's army could be routed here with that chariot hit, plus the Julii infantry moving forward as well. Look at those green Brutii units starting to rout. You see that Legion's put a lot of his units into Testudo to try and minimise the casualties that those chariots are going to do. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. So Legion's army here is possibly in danger of being routed, with the Julii infantry attacking, plus the chariots causing massive damage and fear factor there. Over here on the right flank, you can see you've got Macedon cavalry ready to charge in. It looks like the Julii cavalry has won that battle, and they could be looking to charge into the rear of Gladius's engaged Greek cities units here. As you can see here, I've got basically all my Carthage Sacred Band units engaged, fighting the Macedon and Pontus long-piked units. Only my general is not engaged at the moment, stood at the back there, just giving the morale bonus to my engaged troops. You can see Lee still got some infantry there that are not engaged, but with the enemy coming in behind us with the chariots and cavalry, things are not looking very good for our team, and maybe it's only a matter of time until we may well have gone on to lose this battle. As you can see here, that Julii cavalry, remember what we said, if they won there they would charge into the rear of those engaged Greek city troops, already routing one of them. As you can see, a lot of Legion 22's infantry is routing there. Can you see that Macedon cavalry just hit a small group of Legion's infantry there with the general in? Right, the chariots were pulled back and are charged in again to get the full chariot charge bonus. More of Legion 22's green Brutii troops are starting to rout here. It looks like, sadly, we're losing our left flank here. Not looking very good for our team. Let's move over to the right flank here. You can see that Gladius's Greek city units are still doing very well. There, let's have a look at their numbers. Probably a lot. Then there's Lee's units attacking there as well. You got Macedon cavalry out there ready to charge in. As I say, you got some Macedon and Julii cavalry attacking some units of Legion's men there. But the main story is over here on our left flank here with the chariot and Julii infantry attack. It looks like we might lose our left flank here. But Legion did something very good there in putting his units into Testudo. That will cause less casualties there, and hopefully stop more of his units from routing. As I say, I got my Carthage Sacred Band aggressively attacking the Macedon and Pontus units in front of me. But I must be aware of what's going on behind me with all those chariots and cavalry going in, charging to the rear of my allies there. If you notice, I've turned my general unit now, which I hope will kill a lot of those chariots if they try and press ahead. And I've now opened my chariot, that general unit up, to cover the rear of my engaged troops there from any cavalry or chariot hits going in. So I think Legion's infantry, remember we had a look at the upgrades on his infantry. I think that's why he's still got units left, because he has such good upgrades on his infantry there. See, some of the Pontus chariots are now running amok, probably killing its own allies there. But they did do a lot of damage, and I'm sure that if Legion's units had just been gold shield, gold attack, most of his army would have been routed by now. But remember, we looked at his upgrades, he's got that experience stripe on a lot of his troops. And so that's why they're holding so well against the enemy hits there. So somehow Legion's managed to hold on to our left flank, so really well done to him. As I say, I'm trying to kill the Pontus general here. Remember, Pontus morale's not very good anyway, and if I can kill the general, then that's going to lower their morale even more. And there we go. And now I'm going to turn my pikes to face the threat of those Pontus pikes. It wouldn't surprise me if that pike general now upped his pikes and ran over to help his allies. There you go. See how he didn't want to take on the Carthage Sacred Band just with those men, so he's going to run them back over there. probably with the thought of if they can take out my Brutii ally over there quickly, then they can turn all their forces onto my Carthage Sacred Band. You can see that Gladius has brought over some of his very battle damaged infantry. Gladius has only got 4 infantry units left, and they are extremely battle diminished. So, be interested to see how well they do. Now remember, just at a glance here, the enemy are the red Julii, the Pontus and the Macedon units here, and our team are the green Brutii, Greek cities, the purple SBQR and my Carthage Sacred Band. So just at a glance there you can tell who's who. As you can see here, I'm pressing forward with my Carthage Sacred Band, fighting down those long pikes to kill the enemy troops on the other end of those pikes. If you notice, through this battle I've been extremely aggressive with my Carthage Sacred Band. Right, now see the Pontus general there. It wouldn't surprise me if he did a flanking movement with those units. Yes, they're battle damaged, but if he can get those Pontus units in behind my engaged troops, then he could do a lot of damage there. Let's say I've got all my troops engaged at the moment, trying to help my allies up there a bit further up in the battle there, and I've got 3 units down here engaging those 2 big Macedon pike units. And as we thought here, the Pontus general very tactically here is moving his units round to attack the rear of my engaged Carthage units there. Remember what we said about this Red Julii army? Extremely good upgrades. So it'll be interesting to see how well it does towards the end of the battle here. But as I say, the Pontus and Macedon pikemen here are attacking those 3 units of my Carthage Sacred Band, attacking the rear and the front of them as well. And as I say, I'm turning a couple of my Sacred Band units to face the threat there, but I got a feeling these 3 isolated units a little bit further here could well rout, because they're being hit from the rear and the front. So if those Sacred Band units start to rout there, things could be bad. Let's just pause the game for a second and take stock of exactly what's happened. Right, Legion 22's general's just been taken out. So all of his units, all of his battle damaged units will now suffer a big morale loss. And that could be really bad for us up at that end of the battlefield. Luckily, as I say, he's got experienced stripes on his troops, so they might hold a bit longer. Let's say I got my Sacred Band Carthage guys there fighting Macedon and enemy Julii troops, and turning to face the Pontus threat here as well. I see one of my Carthage Sacred Band units has been routed in that one area. Let's say the battle's quite compact now. As I say, there's Legion's general just been taken out, so things are not looking very good for our team at the moment. Luckily, I've still got my general alive, and I believe Gladius has still got his general alive, so we're still giving morale to our troops and allies' troops around us as well. So I'm turning my Sacred Band now to take on the threat of these Macedon and Pontus troops. If you notice, Lee got some of his SBQR units there in behind to help me counter the Pontus attack. But up here you can see a lot of Ice Orbs troops. Remember, those great upgrades are trying to pressure Gladius's Spartans. Remember, those Spartans have got 2 hit points, but Gladius's army has been absolutely decimated by his aggressive attacking way that he's used them, and caused massive casualties to the enemy by using them like that. But if you notice there, Gladius's units now starting to rout. He's only got 2 units left. His general unit with 3 men in. I think his general unit's got 3 men. Let's just pause the game for a second. So let's have a look at this part of the battlefield here. Yeah, Gladius has got 3 men in his general unit left, and 1 other unit by the side of him that's got 10 men in. That's all of the Greek cities' armies that has left there, and they're being pressurised. You've got Lee's SBQR infantry trying to help him there, and also you've got some of Legion's units there. He's only got a couple of units left himself. And as I say, my Sacred Band units now have just chased off those Pontus units that were left, and I'm just going to turn them now to go up and help my allies. As you can see now, I've upped the spears of my spearmen there so I can run them up to help my allies there.
Your allies' leader has proved to be a disappointment, as he has been.
Right, so if you notice with my spears, I run them up, make contact with the enemy, and then put the spears down. And bang, as those spears go down, and then I'm going to really pressurise, really have been aggressive. As I say, I'm very aggressive with my Carthage Sacred Band, making the most of their attacking specifications against the enemy team here. If you notice, I've got my spears in a dense formation, tight formation, moving forward here into the enemy ranks. Right, if you notice, I'm running this exhausted unit around the rear of the enemy. Remember what we've talked about, you don't need to keep bashing into a barricaded front door. If you just slip round the back, you might find the back door open, if you know what I mean. Okay, so I've got that unit around the rear, and it wouldn't surprise me if that MACEDON unit that I'm facing now routed, because it knows it's got a unit in behind it. There you go, and it's starting to rout. MACEDON morale is not very good anyway. So remember, the enemy team that are left now are just the red Julii, and we are the Carthage and the purple SBQR, and the Julii general has just been routed there. I'm just going to pause the game for a second, so you can see we've got a combination of Lee's infantry and my Sacred Band pressing in on that general. I just thought we'd have a look at the intensity of the battle. Do you remember this cavalry battle we thought might be pivotal to the battle? If the Julii cavalry ran, they would smash into the rear of Gladius's infantry, and that could be our right flank taken out. And over here, of course, is where Gladius charges infantry in into the enemy Julii infantry. What a really aggressive attacking move with his infantry there. And over here, do you remember, this is where Lee and myself were fighting the Pontus and Macedon pikemen. Very aggressive battle there. And as you can see, there's dead all over the battlefield, just bearing testament to how intense this battle was all over the place here. And if you notice this particular part of the battlefield, remember where the chariots hit Legion's 22's infantry, and we thought might have routed them. And you can see all the damaged chariots there, and the dead charioteers amongst all the other enemy and friendly dead there as well. So I say, we're just it looks like our team's managed to go on and win this battle here. I would think this would be an extremely close battle, very, very close battle here. I see there's one unit of enemy archers attacking my general unit there. Bang, as they go in with those small daggers to try and kill my general. But I noticed that both Legion 22 and Lee are sending reinforcements over as well, and that archer unit has now been routed. I think that was the last enemy unit left on the battlefield there. As you can see, we've got very battle damaged units left, and as I say, it is a close victory. I think if this game did very close, and I think that would have been very close there. So as you can see, that's a very close victory there, as I thought it would be. I'd just like to draw your attention to Wolf's Iceorb's experimental army there. If you notice, he's just fighting 81-man units here, and he's managed to get 1,753 kills. I think that's really, really good there. That experimental army, remember we looked at with those great upgrades on his infantry? We look at the kills that he got there. As I say, he's only fighting an 81-man unit, so I think he's done extremely well there. And if you notice that my Carthage army, I nearly only got 5 off of 2,000 kills, but I was fighting the big 120-man Macedon and Pontus units there, but still 5 off of 2,000. That's not too bad for my old Carthage army. Have a look at this battle statistics here. You see my general unit killed 151. Slingers were a bit disappointing, and the cavalry a little bit disappointing as well. But if you look at the infantry kills, they did quite. One infantry unit killed 180. Whoa. So as I say, Carthage punches above its weight when it fights the big pike units there, and as you can see by the casualty statistics there. So really well done to IOW Amberix. Some good kills there. Well done to IOW Elias, who's IOW Sparky, I believe. Well done to Al Cid, and well done to Wolves Iceorb with that experimental army. Well done, guys. You played extremely well. Nice aggressive attacks there. And when those chariots came in behind us, I must say, I thought that might be the end of game. Nice moves there. And really well played to Legion 22. Really well played to Lee. Got some good kills too. with his 17 infantry unit, and well done to Gladius being so aggressive with his Greek cities. As I say, new players watching this, you don't have to be defensive with the Greek cities. Look what Gladius did with his army there, charged straight into the enemy Julii infantry there. So I hope you all enjoyed this battle. I thought it was nice to see so many different factions as well. Carthage, Greek cities, Macedon, Pontus and Rome. This is Spartan Commander saying, hope you enjoyed the battle. Look forward to seeing you soon, and bye for now.